the show exclusively known as the voice of the Arizona Cardinals fan club, the Bird Gang.
Fitzgerald inside the 30, the 20, 30, it's over. It's insane.
Now with your host, Earl Burnett, a.k.a. Casual E.
Bird Gang on 3, 1, 2, 3, Bird Gang.
Here I go again on my own. Here I go again on my own. Here I go again on my own.
Welcome to the Kazual Sportz Show. Sorry about that echo there. This is Earl Burnett, a.k.a. Casual E, and yes, I am on my own today. No guest, no co-host. It's just yours truly doing a solo. You want to follow us, go ahead and follow us on our 4 major outlets. That be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course our YouTube page. And go ahead and download our mobile apps from the website at www.ksrnaz.com. And go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already. But I am doing a solo show. So that's what that intro is for. So just in case y'all wonder what that's for, because Jay, my man Jay usually comes in and sits in for me. Deshaun's on Mondays, and I just, get guests to come in throughout the week. But today it was just me by myself. So, but man, I got to follow up that dang on show, Inside Sports Talk, man. Them guys bring it, man. They got content up the anus. I mean, it's going back and forth, and I'm like, man, this is pretty damn good. And that Paul is something else, dude. That dude is crazy. He's on this network, 2 or 3 times a day. So, yeah, he's got some pretty good basketball insight, deep entrenched into basketball. And my man Ed Cole is just, man, that dude is everywhere. I didn't even know he was in that area with John Thompson, working under John Thompson with, covering him and everything. That's awesome. That was awesome. But I'm gonna do my best to follow it up. I mean, man, we got a lot of good shows on this network, and I am just honored to have these guys and all these shows to run on this network. And I really thank those guys. They do a hell of a job. And keep your eyes and ears open for that show, the Inside Sports Talk, every night, 7 o'clock, right here on KSRN before this show. And it also re-airs on, I believe, Saturday at some time. I got to get that put out, but I'll put something out on social media when I promo that show again, because I'm gonna start promoting that show some more, because it's pretty tight. But let me go ahead and go find out what's going on in the world of sports. That's where we normally do about this time.
What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? What's going on?
In the Casual House.
Well, of course, we are going to give you updates on the NBA games. It looks like Denver and Utah went down to the wire. It's over with. 2-point win by the Nuggets. Wow. I did not get to see that game, and I really want to know how that one went. But you know one thing about that game? I compared that game and that whole series. I compared that whole entire series to the duel in 2001 with Carter and Iverson. And it almost went exactly the same way. The only difference was there was 2 guys in this series that had 50-point games, and the two guys in that series were Iverson and Carter. Iverson had the 2, and Carter had 1 50-point game. But both Murray and Mitchell had 2 each. But the thing that's the same is the scoring. They're averaging about the same. It's almost about the same as far as how much they were averaging point-wise during each of these games. But the Game 7 of that series was close, tight defensive struggle. And here it is at the end of this one. These teams were scoring well over 120, 130 points in the first 6 games. And now here it is, that Game 7 when everything gets tight and that rim starts to get a little bit smaller and people start D'ing up. It's tighter than they've ever done before, and here they are with 80 points, and Jazz was only with 78. And I'm like, wow, that looks exactly like that Game 7 from 2001. So the series looked exactly like it. Like I said, I was talking to, I forgot, I think it was Sean. I said this to. I don't actually, it was Stephen Hunter on our son's podcast. This series was better than that Carter and Iverson one, but you couldn't tell because the crowd's not being there, and the hype wasn't as big because there was no pressure of going from one stadium, city to the next, and then guys had to get up and and because Iverson and Carter were taking turns pretty much. It was like when they went to their city, he scored out. When he went to his city, he scored out. But Denver and Utah, that was totally different. Denver and Utah, both those guys were scoring at a high clip on every game because there was one neutral site, one spot. They didn't have to do no traveling, have to worry about no crowd hype, and have to worry about momentum of a crowd and none of that stuff. So that's why it looks different, and it doesn't get the same. I don't like calling it hype, but pretty much hype. You don't get the same hype from that series, this series, as you got from that series. And I guess it's got a lot to do with where we are right now with this pandemic. But that was one hell of a series, though. You hate to see one of those guys lose. I mean, both those guys, Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, have stepped into star territory now. They're not no longer just all stars. They're not no longer just good players, all star guys that can score. They have stepped into superstar territory now because both those guys pretty much carried their teams on their back, both of them. And you hate to see one of those guys lose. I mean, it's because the guy that loses is going to be talked about as, okay, he couldn't get it to the next round, or oh, man, they got to start all over again and come back and try to be better because this is just the first round and it went that deep and went that long and they put that much work in and you come up that short. 2 points. I mean, wow. That's incredible. That was one heck of a series though. But Denver going into the Clipper the next series, they got to bring their defensive game because whatever this defensive game was here tonight, 80 points to 78, they need to bring that game to that Clipper series because I don't think Murray's going to be able to do what he was doing in that series that he was doing in this one. But that was one hell of a series. I know everybody can appreciate what those guys did, but like I said, I really hate to see one of those guys lose because they both were just outstanding. I mean, they were just, unbelievable. So Donovan Mitchell came one game short, and he couldn't get that last game to get that team over the hump. And so now they got to go back to the drawing board, like all the other teams that get taken out the playoffs got to do. Got to go back to the drawing board and find out what was missing. But what else is going on in this world of sports? The Jaguars, like we said yesterday, waived Leonard Fournette, and I'm really baffled as to why a good running back like this is out there on the market now. And even before this, they tried to trade this guy. No takers. Nobody wanted this guy. Nobody wants this guy. Even at the 4.1 if you had picked him up on waivers, nobody wants. That's not that high of a cost for a running back. He's in his last year of his rookie contract. So I mean, nobody wants this guy, and he was a productive running back on the field. Maybe it's his off-field stuff. Maybe it's his attitude. Maybe he's not a good teammate. I don't know, but man, everybody's shying away from like this dude's a plague or something. So I don't know, but they waived him, and there were no takers on the waiver wire. I thought for sure one of those bottom feeders would pick up a good running back, but I guess now he's going to go where he wants to go. I guess he can go anywhere he wants to go, and of course he's not going to get the same money, that's for sure. So whoever picks him up is going to be, that salary is going to get cut probably in half or more than that. But I don't know why I got a feeling he's going to end up in the NFC West. It always happens when those big players, names like that come up. They end up in the NFC West against the Cardinals, not with the Cardinals, always against the Cardinals. Never fails. So I would not be surprised if the 49ers or Seattle, even LA, gives Fournette a look. I just got a feeling. But he is going to, Fournette is filing a grievance against the Jaguars for that 4.1. meal that he think he's still supposed to be paid for. But the team voided the remaining guarantees on his rookie contract following his 1 game suspension that he had when he got into a fight out there with Shaq Lawson back in 2018. I remember that. He came off the bench and just came down there and started swinging. And then his excuse was, I was taking up for my teammate, but you was on the bench, dude. You're not supposed to lead the bench. But he's a hothead, I guess. I don't know. I don't know much about Leonard Fournette personally, but I haven't heard really much about what's going on in that locker room with him. But it's got to be something I'm missing or something that ain't being disclosed to everybody, because why would a guy that's that good, and I'm not saying he's spectacular, but I mean, I'm saying he's a good enough running back that you would say, oh man, he's out there? How's he still out there? What's wrong? Somebody's got to be wondering what the heck is going on. But all these NFL teams and owners are like, oh, I ain't touching that. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. But he's going to end up somewhere on a cheap, that's for sure. And he's going to be another one of those 1-year prove-it type of deals. But I thought that was really interesting. I didn't get a chance to, I skipped over the Boston-Toronto series real quick. But I guess I'll go ahead and talk about that real fast. Hold on one quick second here. I'm supposed to have my what's going on backdrop going right now. That's my little, in case I give you a split second of silence, you can hear the backdrop. So, anyway, the Boston Celtics look like too much for Toronto, man. Too much firepower, too much Tatum, too much Brown. Too much of everything on that team. And then, of course, now their defensive guy, Smart, balling out, and now he's scoring too. And, of course, you got Kemba. They got way too much firepower. The Toronto Raptors are pretty much just a defensive team. I don't see firepower when I think Toronto Raptors. You don't think firepower. So, how they even kept up in this game was their defense alone. But, they after Siakam and Van Vliet, and, of course, Lowry, they don't score in high volumes like the Celtics do. The Celtics guys can score 20 a night easily, 25, 30 a night easily. One guy can hit you for 40 one night. All depends on if they got it going or not or whatever. But they can hit you from all over the place. Toronto doesn't have the guys that can match up to Tatum, Brown, and I don't even think I think Lowry's a little too slow to try to stay with Kemba. That's just my personal opinion. They just don't match up. This is a bad matchup for the Toronto Raptors. This team the Boston Celtics are not only a powerhouse on the offensive end, they can defend too. And they seem to play their best ball without Gordon Hayward. What's up with that? He's going to be the man out of there for sure next year. I'm sure. I don't think we're going to see him back there. But he's probably due back sometime, and probably within this series, if they make it to the next series, which I think they will. But that team's really rolling right now. And one other thing that's probably key to this series for Toronto is they've yet to beat Boston in this bubble yet. In this bubble, since the bubble started, they played each other once in those 8 games of the bubble games, and they believe Boston waxed them in that game by double figures. And then you come into game 1, can't beat them. Now you can't beat them in game 2. Now it's going to start becoming a psyche thing. And now if psyche is gone, you might as well go ahead and call it a day. It's a wrap. If they don't get one win, I'm looking at they might not get one win out of this thing. I'm like, wow. When the psyche goes, the whole thing is going. So they need a win desperately to prove they can beat this team first. I don't think they can beat them 4 games, though. That ain't happening. This Boston team is, on fire. And I'm going to tell you that the other team that's going to be with them is the Miami Heat. Miami is just as good as this Boston team with the firepower all over the place and can play defense. So I would love to see that matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals. When you talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm going to say, like I've been saying this whole time, I don't think they have all the supporting team around Giannis like they think he does, like everybody thinks they do. I don't think so. The rest of these teams that are left in the East over there got at least 2 stars on there or more on those teams that can, pick up the slack when things go sluggish. Who's going to pick up the slack over there in Milwaukee when Giannis ain't got it going? I know. Please don't yell out Middleton to me because that is, man, he's so overrated to me. It's pitiful. But he's not a superstar. He's not a guy that you can say, okay, Giannis ain't got it going. Go get your own shot. And even though he might have a good shooting game here and there, but that's the thing about the playoffs. Shooting is up and down in the playoffs. So I'm not counting on his 3-point shooting every night. Giannis is going to have to put up some sick numbers to get them over the hump in this series if they're going to beat Miami. He definitely can't sit back and take less than 15 shots a game. He's got to be way more than that. I think he had 12 today or something like. Yesterday. He had 12 shots yesterday, and that is, for a superstar, that is not going to get it done, man. Especially when that's the moment where you're supposed to take over games when you see the team sluggish like that. And so I hope you don't start developing that LeBron syndrome that LeBron had his first couple of years in the league when he was trying to just make the right play and just give it to the right guy. I heard him say something about that in a press conference. He just wanted to make the right play. Well, it ain't no time for that. Because remember, last year you were so close. This year is supposed to be that year that Giannis is like, nothing less than getting to that finals and winning it is nothing less is gonna matter. So, and then you go out in the second round to a Heat team waxing you 5-1 or 4-0. That's not gonna look good for you as a superstar. And then it may look good for you as a superstar that want out from over there if you don't have the guys around you that can give you the help you need. But I would love to see him leave him over there and go to a team like in the valley out here somewhere. But that's a dream. That's a pipe dream. But hey, I can dream. Who says I can't? But I hope, regardless of what happens, that he has to understand he's the center of that team. He is everything to that team. Without him going, the lesser guys on that team can watch him struggle, and they're going to struggle just because he's struggling. When he gets it going and flowing and doing all the things he has to do, and he gets that enthusiasm going like he does and starts to go to that rack, constantly go to that rack, it starts to feed that energy to the rest of the guys, and they somehow, like role players do, they kind of follow suit to the superstars. And we haven't seen that because if Giannis is going to come out passive, the rest of the team going to be passive. So I don't see that series going past 6 games. I think it's going to be 5, maybe, if the way the Heat is playing right now and the way the Boston Celtics are playing right now. Just get ready for that clashing because it's about to happen. But stranger things have happened, and maybe Giannis and them get it going, and they look like the team that was good in the regular season. We'll see. What else is going on? The Raiders. I reported this yesterday with on the show with Sean. The Raiders cut Prince Amukamara, and I haven't heard anything about anybody picking him up. And I always thought to myself that might be a good pickup for the Cardinals to pick up. But then I'm hearing word around camp that Drake Kirkpatrick is looking pretty dang good and enthused about having another opportunity to prove himself that he's a good player in this league because he did it at a high level before. And like I said, sometimes you get on a losing team and you start getting losing habits, and then it's hard to break them. And so now he's got a refreshed, recharging of the batteries, so to speak. And so it looks like he's getting an opportunity to say, look, I'm gonna go back to where I was when I was performing at a really high level, because he was a starter in that Cincinnati. On that Cincinnati team in his first couple of years. So he's in camp, and the word around camp is that he's the man over there. Matter of fact, it's not even a controversy in the camp anymore. We thought it was going to be a cornerback controversy where they had, people battling for that job. All those 5 guys, it was Chris Jones, Kevin Peterson, they had the BWL, which they cut, and then Drake Kirkpatrick, and it was one other guy, but there's no battle anymore. They said it's Kirkpatrick's job now. So I was like, that was quick. So that tells you one good thing, that a veteran over there is always better to have. And one that played at a high level is never, you can't go wrong with that. Maybe he'll catch lightning in a bottle and end up back that Kirkpatrick that was like his first few years in the league. And that would be awesome for this team, because in that 3-4 defense, you need 2 lockdown guys on the outside. That would make it even better on this defense. But that's Eno Benjamin also looked good in that red and white scrimmage. You can't put too much stock on it, of course, because it was the first. I mean, it was the second and third team. But so what? He did what he was supposed to do. He still runs like Eno Benjamin runs. I mean, if you're an ASU guy and you covered ASU, you already know how he runs. The guy runs with reckless abandon. He runs like it's his last time he's going to touch the ball and run. Every play, he is trying to squeeze out every inch he can get. And he doesn't, it looks like he doesn't care if you pull on his limbs and tear a limb off. He's going to pull away. He's pulling and tugging. He's going to keep churning those legs until he's taken down by 2 or 3 guys. That's how he runs. And he ran like that in that red and white scrimmage and ended up with a long 60-something yard run and a touchdown. And, I mean, he was balling. I'm like, man, he looked like the Eno from ASU. So I think he'll make this team, hopefully not just the practice squad. I think he'll actually get on the 53, depending, because you never know with this COVID-19 thing and injuries. You know, is Kenyon Drake going to be healthy enough to